And the other point is Trump saying that other countries are taking advantage of the US by providing more goods to the US than the US provides goods to other countries. And in fact, it's the opposite. The US is taking advantage of those countries. But before I go into explaining why that is, the fact that they provide more goods and services to the US compared to the US providing doesn't mean they're taking advantage of you. You are paying money for a service being provided to you. If I go to the barber to get a haircut, and the barber doesn't buy anything from me, and he just provides that service without buying anything from me, that doesn't mean he's taking advantage of me. He's just providing a service, and I'm paying him money for that service. But the reason why the U.S. takes advantage of other countries, and it's not the other way, as Trump thinks, is all to do with the dollar reserve currency, i.e., most of the world trades goods using the dollar as the currency to trade those goods because of the stability that the U.S. provides when it comes to the dollar. And the fact that, because it's a reserve currency, a lot of countries hold dollar, especially because they need it to trade. It creates a stable currency, that dollar. But the funny thing about the dollar is the U.S. can just print it. It doesn't cost anything to print it. So what the U.S. does is it prints this currency out of thin air, and it provides this printed out currency to other countries for them to provide actual goods and services, whereby those goods and services require machinery, require labor, require innovation and investment, which the U.S. is not doing. What the U.S. is doing is taking all that, and instead of doing that, doing the labor, doing the machinery, doing the innovation, they're just printing the money and giving it to those other countries. No other country can do this. Only the U.S. can do this because the dollar is the reserve currency. Because if other countries did this, if they just printed money like that, the value of their currency would drop, would be demolished, and no one would want to hold that currency because it would go down in value and it becomes pointless. But the dollar stays strong because everyone wants it. Everyone wants it because it's used in trade as the foundation currency for trading. And not only that, foreign countries sell goods to America. America pays in dollars. If the dollar wasn't the reserve currency, you wouldn't hold the dollar. You would just exchange it for your local currency, so then you can spend it domestically. But because the dollar is the reserve currency, instead of dumping the dollar for other currencies, which would hurt the dollar's value because there's more people selling it, they actually invest the dollar back into the U.S. So the U.S. pays them the dollar for goods and services, pays them from currency that they just printed out of thin air, gives it to them, they take it, they invest it back in the U.S., not all of it, some of it. They invested in stocks, they invested in property, which appreciates their value. But most importantly, they invested back into U.S. debt, i.e. they take the dollars and buy U.S. debt. And because there's a high demand for U.S. debt, the interest on that debt is much lower than it should be, which allows the U.S. government to borrow with very reduced rates, reducing its cost of borrowing massively.